At this point in the Westies, you'd think the show would start slowing things down as it moves toward the season 1 finale. Apparently not. Episode 7, A Boy Made of Trouble, wastes almost no time turning Jimmy and Sweeney's already complicated relationship into an outright war. What makes it work is that the conflict doesn't come out of nowhere. The show has been quietly putting these two on opposite sides for several episodes, and now all those little disagreements are finally catching up with them. Jimmy has made a secret deal with John Gotti. Sweeney finds out. Keenan discovers exactly how to use that information. And by the end of the episode, Jimmy is standing across from Sweeney with a gun. Yeah, things have officially gone too far. Jimmy's secret deal isn't so secret anymore. One of the biggest surprises coming into episode 7 is how quickly Jimmy's arrangement with Gotti becomes a problem. After Jimmy worked out his behind-the-scenes deal with John Gotti, I expected the show to sit on that secret for a while. Instead, Sweeney finds out almost immediately. And that's important because Sweeney isn't necessarily furious simply because Jimmy made the deal. He's worried about what that deal could mean if Big Paul discovers it. That's the real danger. Jimmy has always operated like he can find a way around whatever obstacle is in front of him. He's confident that he can manage Sean, manage Gotti, manage Sweeney, and eventually manage Big Paul. But Sweeney isn't nearly as comfortable gambling on Jimmy's confidence. And that's where their relationship begins to crack. Jimmy believes Sweeney should trust him. Sweeney believes Jimmy is putting all of them in danger. Neither man is completely wrong. And that's what makes their conflict interesting. Keenan is no longer playing around. Meanwhile, Keenan has gone through one of the biggest transformations of the season. After being exposed as a rat and losing the corrupt cop persona he'd been hiding behind, he has essentially stopped pretending. The old Keenan was trying to survive. This version of Keenan is hunting. In episode 7, he is practically running the anti-Gambino investigation himself. And what's fascinating is that he doesn't necessarily need some brilliant master plan. He simply understands how these people think. Jimmy and his associates keep creating opportunities for him. Take Sean, for example. Sean gets caught at a strip club by an undercover officer while throwing cocaine around. The drugs are confiscated. Sean is arrested. And suddenly, everybody has the same question. Is Sean going to talk? Jimmy says no. Sweeney isn't convinced. And Keenan sees an opportunity. Sean becomes the center of the problem. Jimmy believes Sean can be trusted. Sweeney doesn't. And honestly, I understand Sweeney's position here. It's easy to say someone won't talk when you're not the person who has to deal with the consequences if they do. Sweeney knows exactly how dangerous the situation is. Sean doesn't even have to intentionally betray them. He could get scared. He could make a mistake. He could brag to somebody. And that alone could be enough. That's exactly the point Gotti makes when Sweeney discusses the situation with him. Even if Sean keeps his mouth shut during questioning, there's no guarantee he'll keep quiet forever. And when you're dealing with someone as connected as Big Paul, information doesn't have to travel very far before it becomes a serious problem. So Sweeney makes a decision. Sean has to disappear. It's a brutal choice, but within their world, it's the logical one. And Keenan knows it. Keenan sets a trap. Here's where Keenan really starts playing chess. Earlier in the episode, he pushes Polk to get a warrant to search Gotti's place. The charge is questionable, but Keenan isn't really interested in the search itself. He wants something else, a bug. And once that device is planted, Keenan gets exactly what he needs. He captures a conversation between Sweeney and Gotti. The recording becomes a weapon he's been waiting for. Keenan knows Sean is eventually going to disappear. He knows Sweeney will be blamed for it. And more importantly, he knows Jimmy is already suspicious of Sweeney. So when Sean is executed and disappears, Keenan takes the recording straight to Jimmy. And suddenly Jimmy hears the conversation for himself. That's the moment everything changes. Because Jimmy doesn't have to guess anymore. He can hear Sweeney and Gotti discussing the situation. He understands what happened. And he realizes Sweeney has been keeping things from him. Jimmy finally snaps. Jimmy confronting Sweeney is probably the strongest part of the episode. There is so much history between these two characters that the confrontation feels bigger than one argument. Jimmy calls Sweeney a coward. Sweeney tries to defend himself. But the trust is gone. And once Jimmy pulls a gun, there's no going back. That's the cliffhanger the episode has been building toward. Jimmy has spent so much of the season trying to balance loyalty, ambition, family, and survival. Now he's reached a point where he has to decide who he's actually loyal to. And Sweeney has made himself the enemy. The scary part is that Jimmy isn't necessarily acting irrationally. From his perspective, Sweeney has been making decisions behind his back while claiming to protect everyone. That's going to be difficult to forgive. Mickey is becoming more unpredictable. But Jimmy and Sweeney aren't the only problem heading into the finale. Mickey's behavior continues to get more concerning. His relationship with Erin is making everything worse because Erin's situation remains complicated. She continues sleeping with men for money, and Mickey clearly doesn't know how to deal with it. His jealousy, anger, and violent tendencies are becoming harder to control, and that's dangerous because Mickey doesn't always think before acting. He's the kind of character who can turn a bad situation into a disaster in seconds. With the finale approaching, I wouldn't be surprised if Mickey becomes involved in something that nobody else saw coming. Because right now, he feels like a loose cannon. And loose cannons don't stay quiet for long. Bridget has her own mission. Then there's Bridget. Her storyline has been somewhat separate from the main Jimmy and Sweeney conflict. But episode 7 makes it considerably more interesting. She's still determined to assassinate Markham. But there are complications. Brendan's unexpected release from prison raises a huge question. Why was he released so early? And could he actually be working as an informant? If Brendan is cooperating with authorities, Bridget could be walking directly into a trap. But there's another problem with her plan. She needs to eliminate Markham without putting innocent civilians at risk. And that leaves her with a particularly dangerous option. She may have to get close to Markham personally, close enough to seduce him, and then kill him. That sounds simple on paper. It obviously isn't. Bridget is walking into a situation where one mistake could expose everything. And with the finale this close, something is almost certain to go wrong. The show is setting up multiple collisions. What I like about episode 7 is that the show doesn't rely on just one cliffhanger. There are several different storylines heading toward explosions of their own. Jimmy and Sweeney are now openly at odds. Keenan has positioned himself to exploit their conflict. Mickey is becoming increasingly unstable. Erin remains at the center of Mickey's emotional problems. Bridget is preparing to make a dangerous move against Markham. And somewhere above all of them is Big Paul, who still doesn't know the full extent of what's happening underneath him. That's the part that makes the finale so interesting. Everyone is keeping secrets from someone. Jimmy has secrets from Sweeney. Sweeney has secrets from Jimmy and Big Paul. Keenan is manipulating everybody. Bridget is operating separately. And Mickey is becoming harder to predict. Eventually, all these stories have to collide. Final thoughts. A Boy Made of Trouble is exactly the kind of episode you'd expect this close to finale. The tension doesn't come from wondering whether something bad will happen. It comes from wondering who is going to make the first move. Jimmy has finally reached his breaking point with Sweeney. Keenan has successfully turned their mistrust into something much more dangerous. And now that Jimmy knows the truth about the deal with Gotti, the relationship between these two men may never recover. The gun in Jimmy's hand at the end isn't just a threat. It's a sign that the balance of power has changed. For most of the season, Sweeney has been the person trying to keep Jimmy under control. Now Jimmy is the one deciding what happens next. And that's a terrifying position for everybody around him. The biggest question heading into the finale is simple. Does Jimmy actually pull the trigger, or does someone else get to him first? Because Keenan has been waiting for exactly this kind of chaos. And if Jimmy and Sweeney destroy each other, Keenan may be the person standing there when the smoke clears. The finale is looking less like a conclusion and more like the beginning of a full-blown war.